Hello everybody, welcome to the Redmen TV. It is your latest Liverpool news update. My name is Dan Clubb. I'm here for the next 25 minutes, half an hour or so, to have a chat about all things related to the Reds, of course. Quite a few news stories to get through, if truth be told, including one breaking one in the past sort of 5-10 minutes. James Pearce has reported that Liverpool goalkeeper coach John Achterberg will be leaving the club at the end of the season, ending 15 years of association at Anfield. And I think he's been incredible servants as well, I think it's fair to say. So it's a shame. And listen, it comes with sort of the change of the guard, I guess, if you like. And I'll be honest with you, I was expecting him to stick around. I think when, obviously, it might be a bit of a too simplistic link to make. You see Arne Slot, Dutchman, John Achterberg, Dutchman. But when you also notice that Arne Slot seemingly wasn't bringing his goalkeeping coach with him from Feyenoord as well. He's got a very small team coming over. And originally there was no Achterberg announcement. We knew about Kravitz, Linders, of course, Vito Matos too. So I thought maybe Achterberg would stick around and sort of continue to work under the new management, but it isn't to be. James Pearce has said he will be leaving as the Jurgen Klopp era comes to an end. As I mentioned a moment ago, 15 years of service to the football club. Whatever you think about some of the goalkeepers during that time, good, bad and indifferent, that's some effort, that, and he has played a huge part in what has been a very successful era. I think he struck goals when Alisson Becker came in, it's fair to say. And he's been in the studio numerous times, John, as well. I should just mention that too. He's a proper sound fella, which always helps, let's put it that way. So let's dive into the chat then first. Hope everyone's okay. Thank you very much, as ever. Very kind of you. Hope everyone's good. Enjoying what is actually sunny. I don't know what it's like where you are in the world, but in Liverpool right now on Merseyside, it's genuinely quite warm and there's a sun in the sky, which is relatively unheard of late. So I am delighted, absolutely delighted. We'll dive into the news beyond John Achterberg. Be interested to see what happens there, though, whether he does have someone in mind on the slot, whether he now does have to revisit his final coaching staff and bring his goalkeeping coach with him. Be interesting. Some more chat before I do. Rob Davis, afternoon, Dan. Hope you're well. I'm sound, and I've just about recovered. Yeah, I'm looking to the future now. I've put the past behind me. You've got to do that as a football fan sometimes, haven't we? So yeah, I think we'll move on quickly together if possible. Afternoon, Dan Buster, afternoon. I have not heard this. If he did, then we owe him an immediate and huge debt of gratitude, I should say. Bad news, Pearce strikes again. That's harsh on James Pearce, that quad bod, and you know it is as well. But yeah, it is bad news ultimately, so I guess you're kind of right. Am I excited for next season? Yeah, I am. I am excited for next season, and I, like a lot of people, was slightly apprehensive and ever so slightly underwhelmed. I don't think it's too unfair to say, by the management search and the fact that it went from the highs and the romantic notion of Xabi Alonso replacing Klopp, and obviously Klopp leaving is ultimately, terrible news, whichever way you want to spin it, really. But I think we could all just about make peace with Xabi Alonso being the guy, and then when it wasn't him, we kind of had to go through the whole rigmarole again and say, okay, it isn't him, it's going to be Ruben Amorim, let's look at him, let's find out why we should like him and really get on board and stuff like that. And I think we all just about managed to do that, and all of a sudden it's not him anymore, and you've kind of got to go through the whole thing once again. And it's Arne Slot. And afternoon, mate. Hope you're well. And now it's Arne Slot. So we've all got to go, okay, you've got to almost gather your thoughts and forget about everything you just learned about one guy and put all that same energy into somebody else. It's difficult. It can become difficult. But I'll be honest with you, I've had numerous conversations now with numerous people who know him far better than I ever did. And it bodes well. Like, people speak well of him. I've spoken to players he's played with, former teammates, coaches, obviously Dutch experts, stuff like that, journalists in and around it. So yeah, listen, ultimately, if Michael Edwards, I've said this a few times on these types of shows, Michael Edwards has chosen him and he thinks he's the right man for the job, that's enough for me. That is enough for me, because I back Michael Edwards to the hilt. Craig Flynn asks, good afternoon, Dan. How do you think, I'm fine, by the way, do you think Mo Salah will sign a new contract or he will leave in the summer? Honestly, in my heart of hearts, I still think he leaves this summer. And I know that's contrary to all the reports. I was going to do an update on Salah's future in a moment, but David Ornstein has essentially doubled down on the fact that all the indications are Salah will stay. But I still think he might leave this summer, personally. And whether it's just a stance from Liverpool, I'm not sure. Liverpool are big into the whole game playing thing, but I don't know. I think it's such a risk to give him a new contract. And I'm aware he is absolutely sensational. And his numbers this season continue to stack up. I think it's just a big gamble. And you'd have to be so sure that all the underlying numbers and all the data is going to trend upwards again, and he's going to get back to the player that he was, if that's even possible, or at least close to it. Because right now, whether it be injury related, if he's still carrying something, I'm not quite sure what it is. And psychologically, who knows? But right now, he's not the Mo Salah that we give a new £300,000 a week bumper contract to. He isn't that guy now. So this summer, you've got to make a decision. Do we double down on him and extend that contract even further, perhaps even on the same terms, maybe even on better terms? That is some gamble to be taken if you're not 100% convinced that he can get back to his incredible best. Because I can't envisage a world whereby we let him walk away for free. That is the last possible outcome I can see from all of this, because you're essentially allowing what could be 100, 120, 150 million pounds to walk out the door. That's just bad business, let's be honest about it. And I've said numerous times on these shows as well, Liverpool, as a sell-to-buy model, need to sell players when they're worth the most amount of money, and Mo Salah right now. So yeah, interesting. I've seen some of this Virgil van Dijk to Dortmund stuff. I'm not giving it too much credence just yet, if truth be told. I've seen a couple of people mention Nunes. I had a chat with him a moment ago. I have. No, don't mind at all, mate. You crack on, mate. It's all good. Arsenal fan in the chat, by the way. Somebody I know personally, used to work with him. So no problem, mate. Be nice to him, everyone. He is sound, genuinely. Yeah, I'm not giving too much sort of weight to the Van Dijk stuff as of yet. I think I see him sign a new contract in the coming weeks, to be honest with you. I'm not particularly worried about his future. And again, I've seen a lot of people mention Darwin Núñez. And I get why there's a conversation around him. Obviously, I also have a pair of eyes, and I've watched him not finish enough clear-cut chances this season. Certainly of late. There was a time early on the season, sort of mid-season, obviously Newcastle goals, and he scored that audacious chip against Brentford as well. You thought, okay, is this it now? Like, have we turned the corner with Darwin Núñez? Is he just going to be more calm, more composed, more collected in front of goal, and will he take more of these chances? Recent weeks, he's kind of gone the opposite way, and that whole connection and that telepathic understanding he had with Mo Salah seems to have gone out the window as well. It just all feels a little bit confused. There's no sort of clarity of thought when it comes to the big moments anymore with Darwin, and similarly with Mo Salah, actually, to be honest. But I'm not giving up on Darwin Núñez just yet. And I don't think Liverpool will either, to be honest with you. And I think what is interesting, having looked at some of Arne Slot's teams and the way he uses his striker, he gets the best out of his number 9 more often than not. Santiago Jimenez now, the Mexican fella who's got a Feyenoord, he's absolutely pulling up trees over there, and a lot of that is credited to Arne Slot and his coaching. So I think he will come in and look at Darwin Núñez and all his attributes and what he has to offer, and he'll say, I can work with that, no problem at all. I can make the best out of that. Don't worry about it. And listen, we might be sat here in 12 months' time having a very similar conversation, and it might have a completely different answer. It might then be, yeah, we can't wait anymore for you, Darwin. Like, we need the finished article now. And yeah, right now he isn't a finished article. There's no two ways about it. John McNulty, is Thiago on the planet? I'm not sure, but Simon Kendrick, I think you're right. I would be astounded if I was ever sat here in the coming weeks saying Thiago Alcantara has signed a new contract. Utterly astounded. Like, even the thought of that is wild. I love Thiago Alcantara. I think he's one of the best footballers I've ever had the privilege of watching play for Liverpool. And I'm aware of the injury problems. I'm aware we've not seen anywhere near enough of him. But when he does play, what an artist that fella is. Like, I'm not a con artist at that. Like, what a footballer. The Núñez goal, I'm looking at the word Núñez again. The Porto goal is one example of just a sheer genius that man possesses. Just not anywhere near enough, as I mentioned. Quick transfer news story before I dive back into the chat. An interesting one, actually. I think we all will have seen, or most of us will have seen, the fact that I'm just going to scroll up to his name because it's one of them you need to see it to pronounce it. LUTSHAREL GEERTRUIDA and I'm probably butchering that, if truth be told. Geertruida, was at the West Ham to Liverpool 2 game at the London Stadium last weekend. And I think that set tongues wagging within itself, if truth be told. And rightfully so, because when you're about to sign Feyenoord's manager on the slot, and seemingly days before that's announced, their right back is in the building, it does feel a little bit like, okay, and that is some beard. I've seen someone mention beard. It is a beard and a half that. That's a little bit like, okay, eyebrow raising, it's fair to say. 7 international caps. He is 23 years of age. Really interesting profile-wise because he predominantly plays as a right-back, as you can see there, but a little bit of centre-back, a little bit of left-back, and in seasons gone by, he's played in these sort of DM areas too, so versatile to the hilt, which is something we've got the best out of James Milner being, a little bit Joe Gomez this season as well. In terms of squad depth, those types of players who can play in various positions really come in handy, I think it's fair to say. 44 appearances this season, 7 goals, 4 assists, so not bad numbers either for somebody who generally plays as part of the back line, I think it's fair to say. And interestingly, Marcel van der Kraan, Dutch football expert, has been speaking to their Telegraph about Geertruida, and he said, I think the chances are that he will be greater than 50% going to Liverpool. He is on the radar and has done fantastic in the Dutch national team and in the Champions League. He is a boy who physically fits the Premier League best of all Feyenoord players. I have no doubt about Geertruida. I've seen him play so often. So Van der Kraan, who definitely knows the stuff when it comes to the VC and stuff like that, is not adamant, but quietly confident that he could become a Red. He'll be following on the slot to Anfield. I think the links to players that your incoming manager owns, they are very simple, and it's like an absolute tap-in for pretty much any journalist or any website. However, maybe there's something more to this one, and I think I don't want to go all Erik ten Hag, Manchester United, and just sign players that you've played with or come up against and stuff like that, because it doesn't work ultimately, does it? But that's not to dismiss all of them and say you can't sign anyone he's ever played with before, anyone he's ever owned before or come up against, because that's silly. Like, he might see that Geertruida or Johan Bakayoko potentially, who's at PSV, of course, he might see them as the absolute perfect man to come in and sort of bolster Liverpool's squad options. And in terms of squad options, as mentioned there, he's so versatile positionally that he seems to tick some of them boxes. Dive into the chat. This Chris Campbell, yeah, I absolutely agree, and I don't like that myself. It is far too easy. I agree. Ruben Amorim, it was on Diamande, like, it was just immediately, wasn't it? And even when it was Xabi Alonso for those joyous 2 weeks, it was Frimpong, it was Jonathan Tah a little bit too. It was Florian Wirtz as well. So yeah, doesn't always necessarily mean it's going to be the case that it follows suit, but again, I wouldn't rule it out either, to be honest with you. And Tom Goldsworthy says he's pacey as. Gucci'd up, said we should play him up front. Okay. Nunes just panics. He has no composure or finesse. You know what? I'm inclined to agree with you because, again, evidence, eyes. However, he clearly does possess those things. It's just finding a way of finding it more often and using it more often. Because that Brentford finish, as I mentioned earlier, and the 2 Newcastle ones they're at the top drawer. They're absolutely outstanding. I hope it's data-driven, not managed. Yeah, it's a good point, and I think it will be. I think Michael Edwards is going to be at the forefront of a lot of our transfer decisions, rather, and our managerial decisions too. There's no two ways about that. Quadbod, Geertruida would be worth well worth 30 million. Yeah, if we can get him for 30, which is the muted figure right now, he absolutely would be. And again, mentioned there, if you can sign someone for that lower fee who can fill those variety of roles, what that means for Joe Gomez, I'm not quite sure, because all of a sudden, does he get sort of pigeonholed again as being like, this is going to be your position because we've got this guy that can do various, or does that flip around? I'm not quite sure. Total Red, Slot also used to coach Koopman is another link I can 100% see happening. He did, and I've seen a lot. We've been linked to him loads in the past, obviously at Atalanta, and played incredibly well against us. Tom Goldsworthy fancies a little bit of Koopman as well. Yeah, possibly. The age profile of him and the fact we've just done a complete entire midfield rebuild last summer suggests that maybe not for him, I would say. I think if we were having this conversation 12 months ago again, I think I'd be totally on board with you. But 26, Going to cost a decent chunk of money as well. I said it there. Unless we were losing one or two, maybe key midfielders. I suppose Thiago, as I mentioned earlier on, could come into this conversation. Maybe you do look to replace him. But what are you replacing there, ultimately? I think Stefan Bajcetic, hopefully, touch wood, will be ready for a lot more minutes next year. So there's your guy, I guess. Yeah, I don't know if we go out and sign another midfielder this summer, to be honest with you. I'd be focusing centre-back, probably a more versatile defender, like Geertruida, to be fair. And depending on what happens with Salah, definitely an attacker regardless. Where that attacker plays, again, hinges on Mohamed Salah's future. Mickey J, Bajcetic and Van der Berg come through next season. Definitely Bajcetic. I've seen a lot of people talking about Sepp van den Berg in the past few days. And I get that, but it's funny because like a month ago, he was a bit forgotten about. He was somewhat the forgotten man. He's had a good season at Mainz, he has. There was a lot of sort of suggestion earlier on in the year that he would just stay at Mainz. I think there's an option maybe to keep him there, perhaps. But now we're getting a Dutch manager and people think we need a centre-half. It's like, oh, Sepp van den Berg, we still own him. Let's just assume he'll be part of our future plans. I'm not so convinced myself. Julian Passin. Good surname for a football fan. Apparently, Mats Wiefer, the final DM, is quite a decent player. And yeah, and he's one who Arne Slot has developed massively. A relatively unknown from, I think, sort of the Dutch second tier when they signed him for peanuts, essentially. I think €700,000 off the top of my head. And he's turned him into a really, really impressive out-and-out Eredivisie top-flight DM. So yeah, ticks a lot of boxes there. Again, I'll come back to it, and Mickey makes the point here. Bajcetic feels like he'll take some of the weight off Wataru Endo, perhaps even Alexis McAllister in that role. Carvalho is a good shout, by the way. I think he's got really interesting sort of 6, 7, 8 weeks coming up when it comes to pre-season and stuff. So I'm excited to see what Carvalho can bring and how he's going to be used. Now we may actually have a position for him, and Ganto raises the same point as well. I haven't seen this, Russell. I have not seen that. What I have seen is Graham Bailey talking about Wataru Endo, and he says something along the lines of, I'm paraphrasing here, so forgive me, Graham, if you're watching. He said that Wataru Endo, he wouldn't be shocked if Wataru Endo left. I would, and not just because he's only been here for not even 12 months at this point. He's had one season. And I think we're all guilty of maybe underestimating Wataru Endo, maybe thinking he's just a stopgap and he's a panic buy is too strong, because obviously we missed out on Moises Caicedo. We didn't get Romeo Lavia. We might have dodged a bullet on both of them, by the way. But we've all been, I think, a little bit surprised by how impressive Wataru Endo's been, given the fact he was over 30. He wasn't necessarily on the radar. He only cost 16 million, and he's been brilliant. I think recently, whether it's been the pace of the Premier League, the intensity of the entire season, I'm not quite sure. It's caught up with him a little bit. But are we going to dismiss him? Are we just going to say, oh, thanks very much for the season. You've done a great job. You've helped us to the League Cup, and you've got us top four again. You know, go enjoy your career back in Germany. I don't see it. And I might be wrong. And this summer with we've got no Jörg Schmadtke in the building now. Jurgen Klopp's about to leave. We've got a new manager. It's an entirely new situation going on with Michael Edwards and Mitty Hughes, obviously, as the decision makers and the hierarchy and stuff like that. Maybe it is a bit of a wow, an eye-opening summer, and mad things happen. Who knows? And Wataru Endo could be in amongst that, and Simon Kendrick suggests so as well. So, listen, it's not out of the question, I'll say that. And it's a little bit crazy that I'm even sat here saying this now, but if the status quo existed and Jurgen Klopp was staying on, and I don't know, it was a different sporting director in situ, Michael Edwards never returned, I think we'd all could sit here quite peacefully and say, I know Wataru Endo's going nowhere. But given the relative uncertainty and the upheaval, it's not a crazy suggestion that he might well leave. Stuart Armstrong says, Endo's been a warrior for us, who was there when we needed him, and while he's not as physical as Fabinho, he's certainly got a space in the squad. And yeah, I tend to agree with that, to be honest with you. And again, I've been really, really pleased and impressed, and more fool me a little bit for doubting him in terms of his ability on the ball and stuff like that. I expected this terrier type who's just going to win tackles, give it to the man next to him, and just be that warrior. And that was all he was about. But he's got loads more than that. He's had some real sort of standout moments. The Fulham goal springs to mind straight away. So yeah, I've been pleased with Wataru Endo, and I wouldn't be in the camp of just get rid straight away, personally. That feels a bit much for me. Juan Alviso says Endo can fill in for centre. He can. He's done that in the past. He's not done it at Liverpool just yet. He did it back in his Stuttgart days and stuff like that. Yeah, I'm not certain. As I say, he'll be on his way this summer. Woodsy says Ait Nori, Neto, Elise Bakayoko, and use Jota and Gakpo as nines with flying wingers. I think the winger point's interesting. I've done obviously a lot of, as I mentioned earlier on, a lot of talking to people about Arne Slot. And what is fascinating is how predominantly he likes to use proper wingers, like old school wingers who get to the byline a little bit more. There's, he's had inverted wingers and stuff like that as well on the way, but a lot of his focus have been wingers that beat a man and get to the byline and put crosses in. Ben Doak, maybe, who knows, might have a bit of a starring role in that. Yeah, that's also a thing. And there's been a lot of that with Mohamed Salah too, and we may all have to eat our words, myself included, when it comes to Mo Salah, because as I said at the top of the show, really, make no bones about it, like I'm not 100% convinced that Mo Salah will get back to anything like the Mo Salah he was. I hope he does. It's been an absolute joy watching him, and there might be a bit of, again, I might have to backtrack massively so in 6 to 8 months' time if he's absolutely flying again. He's beating players for fun and banging goals in left, right, and centre, but God, I don't know. I don't know if that's going to happen again, I'll be honest with you. And I said it earlier on, giving him a new deal on the same terms means he kind of has to do that, in my opinion. Alex Rigby says, Dan, you're a bit of an expert on the academy. Thanks very much. Do you think there are any players that Slot could integrate into the first team next year? I mean, we've seen a lot of them. I would say there's a couple of lads I'm really impressed with, sort of outside of the box, who we haven't really seen anything of. Carter Pinnington is one of them, young centre-half. He's only 17, plays on the left-hand side as well, predominantly of the centre-backs, and outstanding. Genuinely, I'm so impressed every time I watch him play. I really, really am. Kieran Morrison signed a new deal a few days ago, another one. Plays as a right winger, actually, and scores some spectacular goals this season. Really, really impressive too. I'm trying to think of lads who you won't have seen much of. There's another lad, let me just double check his name because it's Cody. Might be Cody Pinnington. There's a Carter Pennington and a Cody Pinnington, I think. Let me just get it the right way round. There's Cody Pennington. Okay. Whoa, this boy can play. This boy can really play, like properly. He reminds me of Thiago, actually, to be honest with you. He plays with his socks rolled down. He's one of them. And I just love watching him play as well. I really do. So him, Pennington. Kieran Morrison as well is another one I mentioned. And Kate Gordon has been back to his best, I think, recently as well. He started off the season slowly, obviously getting back from injury and stuff like that. But yeah, I'm trying to think of anybody else I'm missing. No, that might be it. There's loads of talent in there, and I could be, missing somebody completely obvious who's going to burst onto the scene under Slot. But they're the ones I would look at. Trent Cone-Doherty's a good shout, actually, Foster. Yeah, he's had some moments this season. Maybe he hasn't done it quite as consistently as you would have liked. Trey Nyoni, we've seen a little bit of Trey Nyoni. I think he made his debut on this season under Jurgen Klopp. Very exciting, but so young. Amara Nallo, we haven't seen loads of. Welity Lucky is another centre-half who looks the real deal as well. Yeah, I don't think I'm missing anybody particularly obvious there. Again, out of the lads who we haven't seen represent the first team as of yet. Lewis Kumas, we've seen a bit of. Jayden Danns, obviously. So Jayden Danns, everyone would have seen that clip from his goal at Old Trafford for under-21s a couple of weeks ago. And let me tell you now, that goal in itself was something. The back heel was boss, like score back heel. Everyone's going to be watching that. It's going to be a show reel. It's going to go viral, of course it is. But his all-round performance that day was sensational, absolutely sensational. So if people get excited about Jayden Danns, I think you're right to be honest with you. Honestly, I think he's that good. Dom Taylor asks, what do you think about the two lads at Hull? Yeah, Tyler Morton, I don't know. I think Tyler Morton's a very good footballer. I do. I always worry when you get to a certain age and you're not playing first team football regularly at the club that you're at, your parent club. I do wonder what's going on there, and Tyler Morton fits into that category. I mean, he's a good player, like I say. I think there's a future at a very high level for him, whether that's at Liverpool. I reserve judgment as yet, and I don't want to be too down on the lad because why would I? You know what I mean? But yeah, I'm not sure. Interesting summer when it comes to him. Fabio Carvalho, on the other hand, even more interesting because, as I said earlier on, Jurgen Klopp didn't really have a position for him. It didn't suit the way we played. He wasn't an attacker necessarily. He wasn't part of the forward line. He wasn't physical and energetic enough really to be an 8. He's a bit It's more silky, he's classy, he plays in that 10 role. Arne Slot plays with a bit more of a 10, so possibly there's something in there for him. Thank you very much, Patrick. Yeah, appreciate that. Kwanzaa, yeah, and again, you know what, it's interesting you mentioned a moment ago, you asked a minute ago about sort of academy lads who aren't necessarily on the radar just yet. Coming through, who should we be looking out for? And Kwanzaa might not have even been part of my answer last summer rather. Genuinely, like I spoke to somebody at Bristol Rovers about him at the time, and they were waxing lyrical about him. And I think the words they used were, he will play Premier League football for Liverpool, but when that is remains to be seen. Nobody could have envisaged the fact it's happened so soon. And you're right, he's already cemented his spot as part of Liverpool's first team plans for me. And people are rightly having a conversation around should he be starting ahead of Ibu Konate. And I don't really disagree with the fact that's a conversation. Kay Gordon, he could. Yeah, he could. He's definitely got the ability to do so. Obviously, a huge setback injury-wise for him, I would say. Likewise, Ben Doak this season as well. It's a big shame he got injured when he did. I think we would have seen a lot more of him had that not been the case. But yeah, Kay Gordon, maybe needs a low move away, I might say. But yeah, there's definitely enough ability there and enough desire, enough talent there to make it. No two ways about that. I'm not even going to converse with that, to be honest with you. John I can't say that. Travenna? I think Dan's could possibly be a Drogba. Wow, we'll take that. Mikey Kwanzaa, when he masters the massive Hail Mary run into midfield, I think he's got a little bit of that going on already, to be honest with you. I think he can tick that box. Luke Bryan, I haven't seen Jofra Archer. Yeah, I was going to say I haven't seen the squad in full. Yeah, listen, if Jofra Archer's fit, this is cricket, by the way, so forgive me a second. He gets in any side in the world, doesn't he? Even if you get 4 overs out of him, I think he has to be part of the plans. Russell Stubbley, Doak had a major knee injury. He needs to go out on loan. Yeah, he was back running recently. I mean, a good few weeks ago, actually. I'm ever so slightly shocked that we haven't seen him back involved with the 21s or the 18s, which he still qualifies for. But at the same time, having said that, just be careful with somebody so young ultimately. And when he's so quick and so much of his game relies on his speed, you have to be absolutely certain he's ready to return. No, I do not think Van Dijk will leave, personally. I don't see any problems there. And a lot of people have sort of putting 2 and 2 together and suggesting that there's going to be a bit of a mass walkout, mass exodus when Klopp leaves and Arne Slot arrives. I don't personally see that myself, and obviously I hope not, because you don't want to appoint a captain and 12 months later he's like, right, that's enough for me, see you later. And not just that, when he's as talismanic and as integral to Liverpool's plans as Virgil van Dijk, I can't envisage a world whereby he leaves. Yeah, exactly, absolutely. This and Jurgen Klopp, and I know we're not going to be living in Jurgen Klopp's Liverpool world for much longer, but he has been excellent at making sure youngsters don't get overplayed. And not just because of the injury aspect of things, that's part of it and all that, but I think more in terms of the limelight. We've seen it with Harvey Elliott a lot when he was first sort of introduced into the side. He was very careful with how he dropped them in, dropped them out, took them out of the limelight a little bit, and just made sure they were slowly but surely integrated into the team until they were ready. And I think that needs to continue with what is a very exciting crop of young talent at Liverpool at the moment. A bit more news to run through. James Trafford's been linked to Liverpool. According to Football Inside, Liverpool have concrete interest in signing the Burnley goalkeeper. So much of this hangs on Kevin Keller's future, doesn't it? Let's be frank about it, to get straight to the point. Like, if Keller stays, we may have to go and sign one. I think Yaros and Pitaluga, both still very inexperienced, both still very young. I'm not sure quality-wise they're ready to step up and fill the boots of Kevin Keller, or the gloves, rather, as it may well be. So, yeah, I think we will go into the market for someone. If that is the case, is it James Trafford? I don't know, man. I don't know. The Toulouse keeper, he was really young, wasn't he? He was like 18 or something like that. I remember that when we played against him. Yeah, he was crazy young. That's so mad. Carter Piddington has signed his first professional contract with the Reds. Breaking news, by the way, everyone. Just talk about him 10 minutes ago. That's mad. That's mad. I'm sorry. Yeah. Would you look at that? Oh, and then I told you, player. Do you reckon they were listening? And they've gone, Dan Club's just sung the praises of you. Let's get that new deal sorted, mate. Crazy. Alex Rigby, Dan, what would you do with Adrian Is he going into summer? No, I think he's going to go, mate. I think he's going to go. I think he will be. I'm not sure he's going to play football anymore. So I think he's already gone into like motivational speaking as his career option. To be fair, I don't see him sticking around. Much as John Achterberg will be leaving now as well. I've watched all of Stefan Bajcetic's last few games in the 21s. He played just over an hour on Sunday in a 2-0 defeat to Arsenal. I'll be watching him this Sunday as well coming. Providing he's not in the first team squad, of course, when we play Crystal Palace. He's played well. He has played. I'm not going to lie to you and say he's been the best player on the pitch by a mile, because he hasn't. He's been fine, but I guess a little bit what do you expect? He showed glimpses of his quality and stuff like that. Sounds good, incredibly good footballer. There's no two ways about it. But again, I'm not going to sit here and say, God, he's been phenomenal, because he hasn't. He's just been good. I think the most important thing is he's back playing competitive football again. And albeit only under 21s, he's back playing competitive football again. We just need to sort of get him through this little period between now and the end of the season, give him a full pre-season, and then we'll see what next campaign looks like. But yeah, he's a great player and he's a wonderful talent. There's no two ways about that. You're right here, by the way. I'll dive back into the chat and then I'll wrap up with the news before I go. Got very excited a minute ago with Carter. Sorry about that. But honestly, I think he's the business. I would not go for Ivan Toney, no. And I can bet you a lot on money Liverpool won't either. See what I did there? Leeds United, interested in that Phillips. Any other business? I'm just wrapping up now. Graham Bailey, I've already mentioned, he thinks Wataru Wenda might leave. I don't personally. Fabrizio Romano said Real Madrid are continuing to follow the situation surrounding Trent Alexander-Arnold. Liverpool are watching, like they clearly were 10 minutes ago when I started speaking about Carter Pinnington. Get his new contract wrapped up as quickly as possible. Trent, Virgil, Salah, that Salah situation, I almost don't want to talk about it at all. There's so many different strands to it, and people have got so sort of contrasting opinions on it. And there is no wrong or right answer, I guess, in all of this, because I can see the merits in every single side of the Salah stuff. So it's really, really interesting. Karen mentions Ali too. And yeah, I think if a couple of new contracts along the way for lads whose deal expires further down the line, sound, I'm here for it. But I think as priorities go, that'd be mine. That'd be mine. Sound okay. He's going to make sure I haven't missed anything massively important. John Achterberg will leave the football club when Jurgen Klopp does at the end of the season. I've seen a couple of people mention him. Ibu Konate and whether we should sell him or not. This falls into a similar category to Darwin Núñez to me, and it's different because obviously you talk about injury prone here, but he is. There's no two ways about that, and his form recently hasn't been good either. But I'm not going to dismiss Ibrahim Konate as a top-level footballer based on a handful of games. I think the injuries are actually more concerning than his form, actually, to be honest with you. I would be looking to sign another centre-back for that reason, but I would not be selling Ibu Konate at the same time, because a fit and firing and on it, Ibrahim Konate, I've been on record of saying numerous times down the years, is one of the best centre-backs in Europe. He has absolutely everything. We just need to see more of it and less of what we've seen in the past 3 or 4 weeks. But again, I don't instantly go, bad few results, who can we sell? That's just not my train of thought, and I apologise for that. But I might be too loyal to some of these players, who knows? But and that's not to say I wouldn't sell anyone, because there are a couple that I have conversations around. But Ibrahim Konate is not one of them. I like Brian Mbeumo at Brentford. I don't think he is the sort of person we will be signing. Not to say he wouldn't be worth it, but I think Mohamed Kudus is ahead of him. I think Johan Bakayoko is probably ahead of him. Crescencio Somerville is one I would definitely be keeping a close eye on, because I've got a sneaky suspicion that that's going to continue to be a rumour over the coming days, weeks and months. Sound, that was a busy old show. Going to make sure I haven't missed anything. Mentioned John Achterberg leaving. Geertruida, according to Marcel van der Kraan, there's over a 50% chance Liverpool could well sign the Dutch defender. I've just absolutely punched the laptop there. James Trafford, according to Football Inside, Liverpool have concrete interest in the Burnley goalkeeper. I don't know if I said earlier on, but not for me. I don't think he's at the level required personally. He was brilliant in the Championship for Burnley, even dropped recently for Burnley. I think there's better options out there. Super chat before we go. Chaos Crumpet, which is a name, everyone. That's a lovely way to finish. I've only seen links to Dutch players Slotter's worked with before. That is a small concern. Coop Miners and Geertruida, two that we mentioned in this show, actually. And you've got to bear in mind that are those links genuine? And they could be. We could sign both of them, and I could be made to look foolish once again this summer, which would be fine. I'm used to that. But yeah, is that the reality of the situation where Liverpool are looking, or is that, and no disrespect to any of the journalists or websites making these links, of course, because I used to work in that industry, is that, or is it just going, well, Slot's worked with them before, they played really well under Arne Slot, Liverpool kind of needs that position, so it's no brainer, isn't it? I'd reserve judgment. Keep your powder dry on those links just for now, and time will tell. It is only a small concern, by the way, Chaos, and I appreciate the super chat. Should have said that right at the top, and kind of this as well. So I'm buzzing because that Carter Bennington stuff's made me absolutely over the moon. Not just because I think he's boss, but because I said he was really good, and then he signed a new contract. Wow, that doesn't happen every day, does it? Sound, thanks for getting involved, as ever. I've gone a little bit over, but things are good, man. Things are good. Take care. I'll speak to you again very soon. Bye.
Hey, thank you so much for checking out the content today. If you want to get your name in and amongst these wonderful people, then head to redmenplus.com. Join as a Legend tier subscriber. You're going to get free merchandise codes. You're going to get in our Discord, and you're going to get your name at the end of YouTube videos. Yes, redmenplus.com, Legend tier status.